Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we're taking a little bit of a different route with our interviews. Normally we do game developer interviews, but a few times we've dabbled into some other side of things, and those always tend to be some of our favorite interviews. The other month we did VR healthcare. That was a nice one.
Usage of VR and VR healthcare. This one has my interest peaked though.
Yeah, today we're going into the PR side of things with Stewart and Fox, and today we're joined with Monty and Fox of the company. And like we always like to do you want to do a little bit better of an intro of yourself than I can, and also tell us a little bit more about what you do over at Stewart and Fox?
Yeah, we're Stewart and Fox, and we do marketing and PR. And we not only just cover gaming, we do sort of a bit of everything.
So how did you get started in the PR side of things? And if you say you do a little bit of everything, what makes VR or gaming in specific stick out for you all in the PR side of things?
Yeah, so the company was started, I think, 2 years ago now, if my memory serves me correctly. We're both massive, avid gamers, and we have been. And from League of Legends to Fortnite to any kind of course, your big AAAs, we've kind of played them all, and then obviously going more into the indie game sector as well. We started the company not to necessarily get into gaming, but we ended up falling into it because it was something that we were both so insanely passionate about. Both being Twitch streamers, both loving the communities that we've seen. And we had our first contracts back in March of 2022. And it was more of a commercial corporate kind of thing. Doing PR for some reasonably big individuals, so to speak, NDA'd. Don't want to break those. So we did PR for that, and we did some marketing aspects of that as well, from website buildings to socials and all that kind of jazz. And it was really, really interesting to see that. But at the same time, we weren't personally passionate about it. We knew how to use our expertise, and we knew how to implement the strategies correctly. But at the same time, we knew that we wanted to get into gaming. We had just had so much fun together playing video games, and we wanted to be a part of that process and bring the new games that are coming out to people exactly like us, to a couple sitting at home wanting to play video games. It was really, really interesting. We started with Peaky originally, and then we've moved on to a couple of other smaller things which are still in the works at the moment, but we can't mention it. There's a lot of NDA stuff over here. Even on our website, if you go on, we don't actually have a list of our clients. We respect our clients' privacy because it's quite an important aspect when you integrate into these teams at these companies, as big as they are, as small as they are. You don't want to take away from the limelight from the company itself. We don't want to take away from their marketing teams and their PR teams. We're kind of the people you call when something's not working correctly. We come in and we make it shipshape, so you can essentially just bash it out in the time period that you need to do, so to speak.
And the Peaky Blinders campaign is actually where we crossed paths.
Yep.
That was it. Yeah.
PAX East.
Correct.
Yep. Saw you all over at PAX East, and Peaky Blinders, the game in of itself is great. That's number one. The product has to be good. But the marketing effort for Peaky Blinders was really, really well done.
Oh, it was over the top.
And it's good to hear that there's other games, even if you can't say what, just that there's other games down the line. It's not like a one and done in the gaming industry at all. But, what are some things that I guess you've learned during the Peaky Blinders campaign that you can kind of take going forward?
For me, it's been community. Community's been a massive one for me, and how important it is to build a community before you even launch a game. With Peaky, we struggled a little bit because the community wasn't quite there. The team were working really hard to get it there, but it wasn't quite. They didn't have the size team they needed to build the community that they needed to get for it. And with such a valuable IP, the community building is even more important, and there are communities to dip into to get it as well. It's not a completely impossible task. So learn very quickly how important that is and what type of community you're building too. So building the right sort of community. I mean, you see games like, it's not VR, but I'm going to use League of Legends. I always use League of Legends as an example. How they didn't handle their community building properly in the start, and they now have a troll community. And rather than embracing the troll community they have, they try and fight against it and reduce that as much as possible. You see it on their Twitter and their socials and their Discords and everything. You see them trying to fight against this community, but that is it. That is what it is, right? And it's impossible now for them to claw that back because it's become its own brand within itself and it's become out of control. And this is what we see happen a lot. Like we've seen it recently. We see it happen a lot with different communities for new games where it's been left to go wild at the start because the game devs or the game studios are just hiring people who maybe post pretty stuff on social. And as much as their social media content is amazing and they blow it out of the park, the problem is when it comes to replying to comments and managing comments, that's where they slip up a little bit and the kind of messaging they want to get across. So some of them will reply tongue in cheek, and then other ones, when they're taking over the social cover, will reply to them in a different way. Like different times of day, you can see a different person is clearly commenting to the comments. So the brand is just kind of lost, and the type of community they want to build and that brand disappears with it as well. And they lose control basically. And then it gets big and then it gets out of control and they can't keep on top of it. So that's something we learned very quickly and we embrace. We love that. We love the community building side of everything. It's like a big focus.
We learn from it on a daily basis as well. If you're a game dev listening in today, 100% we're in your Discord and we are watching and we are seeing what's going on because we like to see how other people, is how you learn, is how humans learn in general, is that we see how other people deal with it. And then we look back on it and we'll take the posts and we'll take everything and all the comments that they've done. And we would say to ourselves, how could we have done that better? There's been a couple of new games recently that have been come out that we've been sat in the Discords of and utter carnage, to say the least. A really good example, I think, would be Pal World. We've been sat in that Discord since it was about 1,000 members, 2,000 members. And we've seen them blow up across the charts. It was a really interesting marketing strategy from them regarding, it was essentially a TikTok campaign from what I saw. They had a few announcement videos with some of the big games, game announcement YouTubers, so to speak.
Yeah.
But their Discord blew up overnight and they went from, I think it was 2,000, 3,000 to 24,000 on day one. Then it was 32, then 38, and it kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And they didn't have any kind of infrastructure in place for that at all. It was interesting to see, and we were looking on the moderators who was posting on Twitter about how stressful it was for him. It's just really interesting to see it from the ground up, especially for a game that goes like that. It's a game dev's dream at the end of the day, to have your game go viral like that. But at the same time, you have to be able to manage that community because, as Fox mentioned with League of Legends, people now play into that toxic mindset. You have streamers that play into it, and it can be damaging for the brand, but at the same time, it can be, it's a marketing point at the end of the day, if that's how you want to market it. And League's kind of leaning into it, kind of not leaning into it. Their Twitter, they don't have any brand consistency. They say on their Twitter that they fight it, yet they have a streamer like Kesha, if anybody that's listening knows who that is, who literally screams down his microphone during streams, and they've got him to rock up to the live League games and break into the commentator's booth and scream down the microphone at them with a tambourine. It's just kind of crazy, really. But it's interesting to see, to say the least.
That's definitely bizarre marketing. I'm happy you said community, actually, but as this industry grows, and we'll use VR specific, it's like there's areas that I don't think years ago were as important, whereas today to establish yourself. But it sounds like just in the community sense, if you're not handling this from day one, you will reach a point where, and I'm trying to think in my head, like, how could you ever get that control back to put your community onto the pace you want? And that's what I'm feeling.
And that's something we've said so many times, community managers, you know, having some separation between the dev team and somebody else doing it is kind of important, because sometimes when it's your own product, you're a little too passionate about it.
You could, yeah.
Sometimes not always the best
You
at
can't
handling
let that
criticism
emotion-
or anything like that. So it is important, I think, to have that layer of separation if you're big enough to be able to afford it and such like that. But when you say that you're, working on some other games in the future, are those only going to be flat screen, or do you have more projects in the virtual reality side of things as well?
We're looking for more in the virtual reality side, but we're on kind of flat side at the moment. But we would like to reach out to more virtual reality side, because I really enjoyed the virtual reality community. That was something that I experienced while working on the Peaky contract.
At PAX as well.
Yeah, everyone's so nice and so humble and so supportive. It's a really weird sector of gaming, because gaming is such a troll industry overall. It has that brand, right? We're going to kill you in game. Like, even the streamers have started saying these insults and then adding in game on the end to try and tame it back. But we talk to each other like absolute crap, basically, while we're playing games, right? But I found that within the VR community, everyone's a lot more warm and cuddly and welcoming and embracing of mistakes as well, even from companies trying to start out in VR, right? And making VR games. They accept it a lot more. And I really enjoyed working with the community on that and getting that feedback as well, especially whilst working on a game like Peaky, getting that initial feedback while you're rolling out the first version of the game and hearing what people are saying about it and taking that on board and working with them. And having the ability to do that in a nice, supportive way, other than some of the other games, flat screen games, you do get a lot of the, well, F you then, if they don't like the game. There's less of this back and forward of, maybe you should change this. This will be really good. I've tried this other game before that plays like this. I found that in the VR community, there was a lot more of that. And we quite enjoyed it, didn't we?
It's more constructive criticism than just essentially annihilating your game and your however long 5 years worth of dev time into trying to get an alpha out. It can be absolutely savage, unbelievably savage. And there were some comments like that came through with Peaky, but at the same time, it was nowhere near as bad as we've seen with some flat screen games. Games have been cancelled before they've even come out. Because of stuff like that. You have Call of Duty that's been annihilated recently. Overwatch, for example, is prime example of what happens if you don't look after your community. You get review bombed, and it's currently the number one worst rated game on Steam. It got review bombed from a TikTok because people were angry, and that's a case of not managing your community and not listening to them either. And to listen and manage them, you have to have that infrastructure set up before you get to that stage. And it's something that we tell every single client that we speak to about, even if it's just on an exploratory meeting where we're there, like, you need to make sure you're focusing on community 400%.
And besides things kind of being a little bit more positive in the VR side of things, that's something that we've actually observed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Were there some other, I guess, unique to VR marketing things? Example, something that might work in flat screen doesn't work in VR, or something that works really good in VR maybe doesn't carry over to flat screen?
I feel like we could have a hell of a lot more fun with it. Like, I could go into the game and I can do what I want, right? Because I'm in the game. You don't have, I don't know, you don't have so much of a restriction, do you? Because, like, for example, while we're working on Peaky, you can pick up the glasses and you can smoke and you could dance. Like, you could do it in any VR game. You could dance about and do stuff. I quite like that. It gave that freedom, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Creativity that other games don't always have. Some do, but it has to be coded into how your character works. It's a little bit different. But you sort of embrace it and you're there and you're experiencing those things. I really enjoyed that and felt that was a little bit different. And I found that working with the team, working with the dev teams as well, is that we actually got a lot of time to sit in the headsets and get content ourselves rather than just being provided the content. So it made it a lot more enjoyable for us because we could sit at home recording these funny things and coming up with these ideas to make the content ourselves. And that it's also really adaptable to things like TikTok trends, obviously, as and when suited to the brand. I want to keep that clear because a lot of people will go up and do things different to the brand, but as long as it's suited to the brand, and with Peaky, obviously it was. Yeah. it's the best example, really, because it's a bit of a cheeky tongue-in-cheek brand, and we could kind of have some fun with it and do some really funny things and drawing on the chalkboards and everything. It's really good fun. It's not anything like what you can do with the flat games. You can still have fun, but a lot of our ideas then need to be coded in. If we want something a little bit different, it needs to be coded in. Or if we work with a streamer and they want to insert some personal stuff, again, it's a code in thing. Whereas they can actually, even working with creators, they can take that game and make it their own and have their own experience within that game. And that's something that I found really unique to the VR world that you don't really find anywhere else, to be honest.
As well as being able to test your games at these conferences, there's a sense of trust, especially if you have 4 people there that are essentially never met, and you're covering your eyes and diving into a world that you've never been before. You've never been there, and you just have this one person that you've never met before in your life on the outside trying to guide you through it. It creates quite a personal relationship, I believe, on a psychological basis with the game and the player. There's a massive difference between shooting something on a screen and shooting something in VR. If it gets to a point where VR starts looking a bit more realistic and it starts picking up some of the some better graphics, so to speak. I don't know how I would feel about playing Call of Duty, for example, in VR, because it feels a lot more personal, feels a lot more real. And I think that is a massive tool that allows VR to essentially outweigh its competition. And it will eventually. We've had Apple release their augmented recently. It's starting to pick up. The tech is starting to pick up, and I think overall VR will overtake flat screen, but it's going to be a little while just yet, I believe. But that personal aspect just allows you to market so well. You can really, really market to specific demographics as well. It's just great. I just love it.
Well, I'll say also it was, the Peaky setup for PAX was, it was one of the best ones in the building. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody was in like authentic clothes, more or less in character. They had the life-size fucking cutouts. You got to try the game. We walked away with Peaky hats. I mean, come on. The
It's
whole
the
thing
winners
from,
then. Nah.
yeah, from head to toe. That was just a professional. So at the same time, I mean, someone has to pay for all that. So the studio has to be willing, I'm assuming, to say, look, this is what we have to do. Because it's one thing to walk into a booth and it's just the headset, but it's another when you're stepping over the threshold and you're walking into that actual, in this case, the period. You're on the set, man. So
It's full integration, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was from top to bottom, and then your leaving experience is taking the headset off after having tried Peaky Blinders. It was great. So from a marketing standpoint, I think y'all crushed it.
Yeah, but definitely one of the booths that stuck out at PAX East.
Dude, how long did it take for us to even really honestly be able to get close enough to even talk to anybody?
Constant waves of people.
So
great stuff there.
Yeah, that was huge.
And I tend to like to focus on the positive, but since you guys do work in flat screen as well, I mean, it's probably a good people to ask. What are some, besides the benefits of VR, what are kind of some of the challenges or unique struggles to marketing VR games?
Well, it's not as accessible. End of story. It's the case of your demographic that you're targeting with VR is entirely different to who you're targeting for flat screen. Anyone with a console, anyone with a PC, a potato PC, toaster PC, Samsung fridge, whatever you're playing on, right? Essentially anyone can play for flat screen. Almost anyone. You got a PS3, got a PS4. It doesn't really matter. With VR, it's an entirely separate ball game. I've played Elite Dangerous on PC. My PC it's okay. It's not a bad PC. It's decent setup. But get it to work in VR, it puts some toll on my hardware. And we're running 3070s, like Ryzen 9s, like they're not bad PCs, but it put a toll on it. So I feel like that kind of ties into a really big problem that you face trying to market VR games, is that you are cutting yourself down demographic wise to who owns a VR headset. I'm not too sure if it's the same over in the States. We haven't done that much research into the States regarding like ownage, so to speak, of VR headsets over there. But I know over here, it is purely flat screen dominated in the UK. It's quite rare to see people with VR headsets. And even then, the PS4 headsets, PSVR, right? That was it. The one with the balls on the front.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah, the first one they released. I remember that was my first experience of VR as a streamer. I had to call a mate to borrow it. It's like a case of you can play the game already. Why would you go and buy an extra piece of equipment to play a game? I think that's something that people struggle with, especially over here. It depends on the financial availability of your demographic as well, and how much income they've got to spend. Yeah, that's what I would be saying to devs is just be careful who you're targeting games to. I think it's a big problem, because if you're targeting to a demographic that you want to play the game, but they don't have that financial freedom to buy a VR headset, you're going to be cutting yourself off at the knees, unless you build a flat screen alternative as well. I'm not saying flat screen is the only way forward by any means of the imagination, but I'm saying that if you're an indie company trying to push their first game, I know it's a pain in the ass to try and port it as well. From what I've heard, I'm not a coder myself. No C# over here, but it's a case of do you want to cut your demographic down that much? Do you want to only sell to that 5%, that 10% that own the hardware to be able to play your game? Or at the same time, do you maybe want to think about trying to release a flat screen version as well? Because an example would be Power World. They released a full flat screen game and then they modded it. The modding community went mental on the game, and there's a VR version of it from a mod. It's kind of crazy, and that wasn't officially released. That was just released by a modder who's just done it in the space. It was 2 days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was a day.
The VR community put out an Unreal VR injector. So any game made with Unreal Engine, you can
port over.
Yeah, you can inject VR into it.
That's
so,
beautiful.
So since Power World's made with Unreal, the day it came out, it's made with Unreal. The injector's already out. So any game going forward made with Unreal can be injected into VR for PC VR as well. So the modding community is insane.
Yeah, that was it blew my mind seeing that. We were just looking at the announcements.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people playing Power World in VR, and as good of a game as it looks in flat screen, it's like, man, to play it in VR looks pretty crazy.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of games.
Mhm.
Pokemon with guns and survival in VR, sign me up.
Shit.
So
It's really funny you say that line, actually. That was their marketing line. That line made their game, Pokemon with guns. That game, that line, when they released that on TikTok, when they got people saying it, it was the signature at the bottom of their contract. That was the best marketing ploy, even if it's going to land them in a little bit of hot water. But at the end of the day, from a PR standpoint, it won't, because they weren't the ones that said it.
It was the creators.
It was the creators that said it, but they 100% tried to initiate that a little bit. They were like, "Hey guys,"
They knew that was going to happen.
they knew that was going to happen, but at the same time, it blew them off the charts. It's what anyone was talking about online on stream, in any of the game announcement videos, and that was the way. It was the tagline, wasn't it? From what I saw.
no,
And yet you ended up saying it. So
yeah, it's smart marketing.
That's it, man.
It
That's
sells
it.
it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that you both did some Twitch streaming. So how long were you both each doing
Twitchers.
that? And is that something that you still do as well?
For me, I didn't do it for that long. I did it for about a year, and I really enjoyed doing it. But I was working full time along the side and everything, so it was a lot while trying to stream. But I really enjoyed doing that. Played a different range of games, met some really nice streamers, made some good contacts. But a bigger focus on my side was like the creator content on Instagram and TikTok. That's the stuff that I was pushing a little bit harder. But you were the big streamer, weren't you?
Yeah, I did that
Absolutely.
for a while back in 2020. I jumped into like the Twitch sphere, if you want to call it that. I just graduated from university. I did music and consumer psychology as a mixed. So that's where I get my marketing brain from, so to speak. But I graduated into COVID, into the start of COVID in the UK. So I don't know if you know much about musicians, but we got to play in front of people. It's really, really difficult. And I lost an internship. I lost essentially my entire career got halted. And I turned to TikTok started posting TikTok videos about like pop punk music. It was a little bit lame. I won't lie. I watch those back now. I'm like, good Lord. But yeah, and then from there, we started playing Warzone when that first came out. And that was my first proper into the gaming, almost competitive gaming aspect. We started getting a little bit tipsy, me and a couple of my mates who were meant to be hanging out together, but we couldn't. So we just started playing. And I was like, one day I picked up my old laptop and I was like, I'm going to stream this on Twitch. It's going to be great. Guys, it's going to be insane. And I've got a photo of it somewhere. I'll have to send it to you guys on Discord at some point. But I've got a photo of it, and it's this old like toy trunk that I had from when I was like 5 years old. With a TV stand on it, with my TV, and with this awful old laptop that could barely run, I don't know, Doom. It looks like trash, but we started streaming from there, and then Call of Duty took over my life. We got scouted by a team, and it kind of just went a bit mental from that. We started playing, and I streamed for like 3 years. Took a break because I started working full time as well. I was putting like 18, 20-hour days because I would be working 12 and streaming 6. And as a marketer does, I knew my demographic was in the USA. So I had an 86% USA demographic, which was really odd. Bearing in mind, I'd just grown my social media from TikTok. And so I was streaming this kind of time. So I'd have to stream, for example, to like Eastern time. And right now for us, it's almost 7 p.m. So I'd have to be streaming at something like 11 p.m. to hit people at dinner time, which is where they're coming home or something like that. It was a really interesting experience, but it kind of exploded in my head how crazy good streamers are to use for marketing. Because when we got scouted, we started promoting this energy drink. Haven't got a contract signed with them, so not to promote it anymore. Happy days. So we started promoting an energy drink, and it was great fun. And we did all these events. We went like paintballing against other teams and stuff like that in real life, IRL, and it was crazy. It was really, really good fun. But that's kind of where like my love for social media came from. My love for gaming and marketing around gaming came from. And it's something I'd always wanted to get back into. It's just a crazy few years, to be honest with you. It's kind of a blur, to be frank.
Well, at least you were able to. I mean, it sucks that you had to do a like full blown career change, but I love that you got consumer psychology. Just sounds pretty friggin' serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so like if I was going to hire someone and I'm like consumer psychology, I already feel a little sold.
It's the way that people think, right? It was more based around music, but it can be applied to anything. It's a case of you need to convince people that your music is what they need to buy right now. And that can be applied to damn near any consumer product that you can think of, be it, I don't know, Scrub Daddy or a video game. It's a case of marketing and trying to make the game or the product be perceived by the consumer as being on this lovely thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I won't get too technical, but it's a case of inserting it somewhere on there so they need it and they want it. But obviously at the end of the day, you don't need to be doing that if your content is good and it is original, because it will build its own organic kind of traction in itself.
Nice. And then what would you say separates Stewart and Fox from, a standard PR company, especially in the VR gaming or the gaming world?
I'd say we're very different in the way we work. For a start, there's a couple of different ways. The way we work is a little bit different. We integrate more in with teams. So we're less of that, I don't know, we come in and we go, we're going to give you like 30 posts on social media a month. We're going to give you this amount of PR articles a month, and we're not going to talk to you. We're just going to get this done. We'll talk to you when we do it, and then we go off, and that's it, right? You didn't hear from us. We do the work. We're silent partners. But whereas we sit more with teams, don't we? We actually sit on creative team meetings and listen to everything that's going on, sit into their stand-ups weekly, pick up on different ideas of what's going on, which makes it a little bit different, doesn't it? Because we work more kind of like an employee would, to an extent. Obviously not as heavy hours as an employee, but we can, obviously. Well, it's more expensive for a company to do that sort of thing. But We just sit and more like an employee. So we have that personal touch with the teams so we can really support them. And at the same time as doing something like that, we offer more value than sometimes employees do. Obviously not all the time. I'm not saying don't hire employees anymore, but if one of us is sick, the other one can pick up the slack, right? Or if one of us goes on holiday, the other one's here to pick up the slack. There's always someone consistently can be reached out to. And it means we can cover out hours as well when we're talking about things like, because a lot of the big thing for me in the gaming sector is I like the crisis management. I enjoy that. I know it sounds crazy, but I really enjoy the crisis management. If something goes a little bit wrong, I really like to be there to pick up pieces.
Out of fire, frying pan kind of thing. Yes.
And especially in the VR industry with people's expectations for what games should look like. They're expecting this AAA looking game on VR. And it's not always the case. And sometimes these games get slated for it. And picking up the pieces in there and winning people round that are telling you that you've done a really shit job of the game and it's awful and it's terrible and the whole dev team are upset about this one comment, and you go back to them and you respond in the right way and they come around and they go, oh, thank you. I actually understand now and maybe I will give it a try. Getting a response like that, even if it's fake and even if they're trolling, even just getting that response on your post is a win, right? So other people see that and other people see how you handled it professionally instead of getting defensive and angry. Like, I really love that side of it. That's something that I really enjoy the most.
Yeah, it's quite nice as well to stand apart from these agencies that essentially will copy and paste the same marketing strategy and sell it to 50 people and then dissipate and disappear into the wind. There's a lot of agencies in the UK, I won't name names as much as I want to, that essentially resell the same marketing package as Fox was touching on there. This 30 post, we'll do 30 posts a month for you with this hashtags, and it will cost you this amount of money. And then it's like a subscription service like Netflix. That seems to be a lot of what marketing is advertised to people as. I just want to clarify for people and anyone that's listening, that's not what marketing is. If you get any agency that's coming into you and they're coming to you just trying to sell you this pre-made package, they're not a marketing agency. When we sit down with people, we have 3-4 onboarding meetings and we literally design boutique strategies essentially around what people need, and we find where there are holes and we'll come in and fill those holes. So an example, let's say this company called Cap is currently releasing a new game, and they're doing really well on their socials. We'll analyze their socials. We'll analyze everything. We'll analyze any kind of press outreach they've done. We'll analyze if they've got streamers and interactive content creator outreach, all that kind of jazz. And we'll see what they're not doing. So if their socials are great, but they want a little bit of support on it, we'll give them a tiny bit of support on it. But we will say to them, you don't need us here. You don't need this. And we essentially create these boutique packages, as I said, these boutique plans to essentially fill any holes in a team that need plugging. Because at the end of the day, you can do as many social media posts as you want. If you're not doing your keyword research, you're not doing your hashtag research, you're not going to reach anything. Some people just think, oh, I'm going to post 3 times a day on Instagram. That's the goal. And it's not. You really, really, really have to sit down and you have to find out where your demographic is. You've got to check what times you need to be posting. You've got to find what hashtags are going to work for you. You've got to find creators that are going to work for you and not ruin your brand image if you're thinking about brand image at that point. That is 100% what sets us apart, because we've had to pick up the pieces with so many clients of these so-called marketing agencies, whereby they were saying that they were paying, I think $5,000 a month was one of them, which was unbelievable for 30 social media posts or something crazy that was across 3-4 different platforms. And they were just posting, didn't give a rat's ass about engagement, about the kind of content. It was literally just this copy and pasted crap that they put into Facebook business suite to be posted on a daily basis. It's heart-wrenching because it gives agencies a bad name, because then we have to fight in meetings. We have to fight saying we're not going to do this. We're not going to be these people. We aren't
Yeah.
these people. The amount of times we've had to do that is unbelievable. And then that leads to people having insane expectations of you as well. If we haven't sold 1 million units of your game by day one, then it's a fail. It's a case of you have to sit back and you have to try and look at these problems from a wider perspective. Because if you don't, you're just going to get yourself in a pit, really. You're going to think everything's going to hell and you're going to give up. It's really important to try and stay positive with some of these things, because we've had some meetings with some clients whereby they're really upset. They're visibly really, really getting anxious. We're like, guys, take a step back, chill, relax. It's not all going to pot. It's as Fox has said, it's one bad comment or it's one bad day of sales. You've just got to really, really rein it in and chill out.
It's getting the PR thing is a big thing as well, because a lot of PR companies aren't moving with the times anymore, and it really breaks me up to see it. Like, a lot of companies will sit back and they will write. Well, they'll come to the gaming devs and the studios, and I've seen it so many times sitting in the studios. And I've heard them complain about it, and it really irks me to hear them complain about it. Like, they'll sit there and they'll wait for the news story. They're not proactively trying to make the news story. They sit there and they wait. They're like, when have you got a new update on the game? When are you doing this? When are you doing that? There's no, like, go out and get. Like, let's help you create a news story. So we're very much about let's help you make content. Let's give you ideas and fill you full of excitement and fun things you can do. So if you want to do some exciting PR stunt on TikTok, let's help you make that then gets you PR reach, right? It's not always about the big sell of the one story, like our game comes out on blah, blah, blah day, and this is what it's going to be. And that's it. We'll drop this viral, crazy, exciting trend that people are doing loads of weird stuff to on TikTok. News suddenly get in contact with us and be like, what are you doing? What is this? And, then you get the news coming to you. It's about going out and getting those things too, and reaching the right people and the right news outlets. I think a lot of companies get blinded, and a lot of studios get blinded by the past history of a lot of these PR studios and a lot of these marketing studios, where they're like, with said game A, said game D, but they may have been around for like 40 odd years already, and they're using the same practices. They're using the same print media. They're using the same go-to-market strategies. They're not adapting with the times. And that's something we like to pride ourselves in. We're always adapting with the times. And we see PR as more of a, it covers your influencers, it covers your press, but it also covers a lot of social media too. And I think that's where a lot of social media managers and community managers get missed out on, because they don't have the support PR to, like, these crisis management situations. The reason why we can respond the way we respond is because we are PR trained. We know that if you post the wrong thing on social media, you could get a call from the news.
It's going to get screenshots shared to everybody.
I worked at a national charity, RSPCA. I worked at them, and I responded to my first week of hours cover. I responded to a very negative post with a comment, and it got printed on first page news with my name on it. And it said, a spokesperson from the RSPCA said this. And thankfully, I had the training and everything, and my response was on point. But still, for me, that was terrifying. I think a lot of companies are not prepared for that. Like, that is how it's seen. If you're posting on social, if you're doing anything where you're at the forefront of the company, you are a spokesperson. And that's something we embrace quite highly, isn't it? And
we love being able to do it. It's really, really good fun, because you can get hung out to dry by press. Absolutely hung out.
I love the integration and an analytical approach that you seem to be willing to take by, like, look, besides the tailor-made, at the end of the day, you're going to be essentially one of the team, not an outsider looking in on the team. And you're going to take a serious look at the analytics, like what's making this tick either way, and willing to say, you don't need me for this, because, I mean, honestly, it's working. Why fix what's not broken?
Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the personalized approach. I think that's the way to do it. And hopefully we see you pop into more VR games in the future.
As the industry grows,
Yeah, like I said, I love the campaign for Peaky Blinders. And, before we wrap this up, I don't think we had dropped this at any point. If anybody is interested in getting in touch about, game dev promotion with their game or anything like that, what's the best way to contact Stewart and Fox?
It's either via our email or via our website.
Or you can reach me on Twitter quite easily.
Yeah, just Fox,
yeah.
Fox is insanely active on Twitter. LinkedIn as well is big for us. But yeah, feel free to reach out. And we do entirely no contract meetings. So if you just want to talk about something and you want to maybe consider hiring us and consider maybe looking to get some aid with whatever project you're working on, feel free to just reach out. We're not the company that's going to charge you £1 million for the for your first onboarding meeting. We normally just do free exploratory meetings with everybody because we like to hear what people offer. Because at the end of the day, if you're coming to me with an idea or you're coming to us with an idea that is, I think, going to blow everything out the water, hell, we damn near would do it pro bono. We've offered it to a few people in our couple of years trading so far. And we've done some work for people that we just really believed in the project and we love the project. It's great. It's great because I love to be able to get on a ground level on something. I know Fox does as well. It's the entrepreneurial spirit. I think that's in everybody. If you can grind RuneScape for 25 million hours, you can definitely grind your own business, right? It's a case of being able to invest into something and see something grow. And we love to see things succeed. It's one of our top. It just makes me happy to see things go well, because when it doesn't go well, people get very upset, especially if it's your baby that you've been working on for how many years. It can be quite upsetting, but hey, it won't happen if you speak to us, guys.
Awesome.
Well, I don't think this is the last time we'll be hearing from these two.
And I'll throw all those links in the show notes as well too. So if anybody's curious to check that stuff out, they can find it there. So thank you for joining us today. That was great insight into that professional side of,
especially as a developer.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys, for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You.
Absolutely. And for any of the listeners, like I said, like I always like to say to close the show, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, join our Discord, Patreon, all that stuff.
Come hang out.
Yep. And hopefully we see Stewart and Fox at some more gaming conventions in the future.
Oh, I hope so.
Awesome. So check you guys out later.
Take care.